Hello, once again, and welcome to this program, The Veteran. When we talk of the veteran, we mean people in society who have, by sheer luck, by hard luck, and with God on their side, they are always moving ahead. They are pace setters, so to speak. They are role models. They've helped to change society. They've helped to make Nigeria a better place to live in. And today I have a man, I would say, well-talented, many professions, you always find him. When we're talking about religion, we're talking about the military, we're talking about the medical profession, this man is neck deep inside that. And it's interesting to know that as a medical doctor who treats the sick, does some surgeries, spirituality is also part of him. He is an assistant provincial pastor in charge of Christian social responsibility in the Redeemed Christian Church of God, FCT Province 1. I have not called his name, and I want to tell you that he is a doctor. He is a consultant, urologist at the Chivak Specialist Hospital and Urologist Limited in Wuse, here in Abuja, Wuse Zone 3. In the military, he rose to the rank of a colonel before he left to join the civil society. I want to welcome a man of many colors and achievements. Welcome, Colonel, retired, not tired, a doctor, medical, Erastus Azodo. I hope I got the name right. Welcome to Third Eye Africa TV.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
My name is Ben Shaman, as he has said. I'll be anchoring the program. So, even though I have tried as much as possible, you are a man of many ETCs. Let us get in brief the life of this colonel, of this doctor, of this pastor. Who is this?
Thank you, sir. My name is Everistus Uzoma Azodo. I was born 68 years ago in a town in Imo State called Nkwere. My father was a man who worked all over Nigeria. He was one of the foundation teachers in Nigeria Defense Academy. So you see where my military is coming from.
So it's in the blood.
So even though he wasn't in uniform himself, but he taught regular 1 and 2 English in Nigeria Defense Academy. And we lived all over Nigeria. So we were in the Nigeria Defense Academy living in Kaduna before the Civil War, and we went back to the East. After the Civil War, I started secondary school in Federal Government College, Warri, in now Delta State. That was 1971. And we were raised by Mr. Philip Howard Davis, known as Papa Davis, to be Nigerians. We were raised to be Nigerians. I don't know how many people were raised to be Nigerians. We are made to, first of all, see ourselves as Nigerians before any other thing. And for some of us, going to university was a rude shock because we realized that what we were taught wasn't what applied in a society. People identify themselves by their tribe first before thinking of Nigeria. I'm somebody in Nigeria has been good too. The people who went to federal government college at that time, we had everything. We had everything. You can imagine at that time school fees was like 10 naira. My father was vice principal in federal government college Jos at the time. And then Nigeria government will give me 15 naira, 80 kobo as transport allowance to go from Warri to Jos. So what they were giving was even more than the school fees we were paying.
So you were paying your school fees. You could exempt daddy from paying school fees.
For where I collected my money and used it. So from FGC Warri, I went to University of Ibadan to study medicine. And I went to UI in 1979 because I finished in higher school at FGC Warri before going to, in 1977. I finished school start in 77 in FGC Warri, then went on to University of Ibadan, and I graduated in 1982 with a distinction in anatomy. That's what now leads to my studying surgery. And but while in school, I joined the army as a cadet officer in training. So I joined the army on the 27th of March, 1981, before I graduated from medical school. So from that day, I became government pikin. And so by the time I finished in 1982, I went on to Calabar. So I've traveled all over Nigeria. I did my housemanship in Calabar while at the same time serving whenever I had free time in 13 Brigade Calabar.
Wow. So your military career, you had to go to India.
Yes, we did our own training in Nigeria Army School of Infantry in Jaji. And we as they said, that trained.
That's close to my place. I'm from Kaduna State.
What part of Kaduna?
We call ourselves Sholyo people. That's in Kaura local.
Okay.
But outsiders like you will call us Marwa. You just nickname us.
No, we just nickname what you call yourself. Trained in Jaji, and the first place I served as a commissioned officer was in 82 Div, Enugu. And I served in 82 Div from that 1983 to 86, when I was now posted to Nguru.
That's Yobe.
Yobe State. That time it was, what was it then? The states changed.
Northeastern states.
Yes, at that time we had, it was during the Babangida era. His former MA was the governor then in Maiduguri. Okay, and from Maiduguri I went out from Nguru, and I went to do my postgraduate training in University of Nigeria.
That's in Nsukka.
Nsukka, but where in the University of Nigeria Teaching Hostel in Enugu. So I was then still serving in 2 division. So I lived in the 2 division and worked in the teaching hospital.
Now, let us look at that boy, Everistus. That time when you entered the Nigerian Defense Academy, you are a complete gentleman when I look at you. Now, what was the motivating spirit that made you, look, I want to join the Nigerian Army?
I guess some of us were born soldiers. All my life, I've always been around the military. As a child in Kaduna, where my father was teaching at NDA, we always went for all the activities. Watch the boxing, the parade up there. Today, up till now, and I can't get off parades. Parade is something that makes you just want to watch parade. You just want to join the army. So for me, it was something I was passionate about. You know, so all my life, I always wanted to be a soldier. Actually, I wouldn't even have read medicine, but my father insisted that you go to university first before you join the army. So I actually did my training after I had graduated to be a doctor, and I went to the Nigerian Army School of Infantry in Jaji to do my training. So it's a passion. I see myself, even today, first and foremost, as a soldier. I'm retired, but 25 years, 280 days of your life, as a young person, you don't forget. So as I speak, I still feel like a soldier because that's what I am.
That injection is still there.
It's an attitude. You see, people think that being a soldier means carrying gun. Then every armed robber is a soldier. You see, being a soldier is about being disciplined. And a soldier is made on the parade ground. For us as soldiers, the parade ground is holy ground. You don't walk across the parade ground, you walk across the parade ground. That is where soldiers are trained. To think as one man, to walk in unison. Have you ever watched review order in parade?
Yes, I saw when Abacha was still on ground. I saw when Abdusalami was head of state.
So you will see when they say soldiers will march in review order. You see they had long line of Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, and they march forward together. And they stop at the same time. Bam. Once that thing is going, they're counting their head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, left, right. And they stop at that same point. Because they've been conditioned to think in the same way. Do you know that if you have a section, 10 men, and one person commits an offense, we punish everybody? You know why?
No.
It makes you realize you are your brother's keeper. And if your brother does anything wrong, all of you will go in for you. So you're a team. So that's a soldier. You think and act as one man. That's what makes a soldier. And a soldier is made on the parade ground. Every other thing you learn in your different courses, but your parade ground is where soldiers are made.
And we are told, let me call them the possible terrorists. That's Sergeant Major on training.
There's the man you respect all your life. Even after you become an officer, after you finish and he's saluting you, are saluting him back. You never forget your drill sergeant.
You say, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And he's also saying, thank you, sir.
You never forget him. Because the man who has hold to me, they call it breaking your civilian mentality. You know, because a civilian, you think of my right, I'm right. A soldier has no rights. You only have responsibilities. Your job is to obey. If you're an officer and your commander asks you for your opinion, then you give your honest opinion because he asked you for it. If he has not asked for your opinion, he gives order, you obey. That's what makes a soldier.
If not, they call you bloody and ambitious officer. Wait for your turn.
So really, people think that it's gun that makes a soldier. No, a soldier is made by the discipline he has. And our attitude is that there are no bad soldiers. The only bad officers. If a soldier believes that he can get away with anything, that his officer will condone it, he will go ahead and do it. But if he knows that his officer won't stand for it, he will not try it. So if you see a bad soldier, there must be a bad officer somewhere.
So now, looking at your friends, classmates, coursemates, and all that stuff, do you fraternize? Where are they? Like people will say, where is so mate? Where is?
Well, you know, for us, it's a bit different from those who trained in NDA because where I have a direct regular commission, my coursemates would be men who graduated with me. They were all graduated from the university when we came in. So we have some in finance, some in the workshops, some in the medical call. No, the services, that where we are. A lot of us have all retired by this time. We are old men now.
Sure.
So most of us are retired and
but never tired, still in service for humanity.
And a lot of them are doing very well in their different places where they've gone after retirement. The discipline you get from the army, you can't trade it for anything. You see, it's funny when because of our long exposure to governance, there's been so much interaction with the civilian population that people only see the bad aspects that comes from less than 1% of soldiers. Most soldiers had nothing to do with politics, just soldiers doing our work. So they use those people to judge the rest of us. If you must know, Nigerian Army has very well-trained officers and men in different aspects. If I'm going to accuse the army of anything, it would be a waste of manpower. Because during the Gulf War was when I discovered that our tug-of-war instructor was trained in on exercise missiles. But he was teaching tug-of-war instead.
Now, I have seen that the Nigerian Air Force decided to do what they call a reunion with retired former officers so that they just know who they are today, where they are today, what they are doing, and all that stuff. I've also seen that in some countries, retired officers tend to be playing roles of community policing officers, so that if the environment is safe here, that of B is safe, C community is safe, up to Z. But in Nigeria, it appears people don't look, because we don't talk of reservists. People don't talk of, let's recall them to join, like the fight we have against the banditry, kidnapping, and other flash point activities in this country. What's your take on all of this?
When a man retires, you don't call him back to do such things. But the fact remains that a lot of our officers who are retired are serving in various capacity in different areas. But I think we need to have veterans. We have places that veteran affairs. But in the US, you have things that you have like veteran hospitals and stuff like that, where you actually care for them. I think we can do a lot more. Well, we have a nation that's with great potentials, and I want to be careful because I don't want to get into the realms of politics. Let's put it that we can care better for our veterans, because the care you give to those who have left service, those who are in service are seeing, and influences their activity. Nobody is going to be ready to die for this country if they think that when they die, their family will be abandoned.
Now, I can see that very closely associated to that is the fact that the current Chief of General Staff, General C.G. Musa, this Vectors game, they're talking about establishing hospitals to take care of the wounded, the injured, and all that. So do you think that is good omen or something?
I think the point to make is that it's important for us as officers, especially those who are serving, to remember that soldiers march on two things: their stomach. After you have armed them, you must make sure that they're well cared for. If they are entitled to allowances, they get them. Their food, they get them. And they have to have knowledge that if they suffer any injury, there's adequate medical care for them. We can do much better than what we are doing. I think it's very important. I served in Ecomog, so I know what I'm talking about. I commanded the field hospital in Ecomog. we can do a lot much better than
So
we are
what
doing.
was your experience like?
Well, my experience was like any other experience of officers who were in ECOMOG. That's not for public discussion.
Okay. Now let us move on. We are not discarding the military now. We'll come back. But let's now look at your next profession, medical. And you are a specialist, urologist.
Yes, sir.
So what do they do? And they said their sister job, or their assistants, or their twin sisters or brothers, they have to do with gynecology and all that stuff. Let us first get to know your job as a specialist urologist.
Okay. First of all, is that a urologist is a surgeon. Now, what does he do? A urologist takes care of the surgery related to the male and female urinary system. So you are talking of the kidneys, you are talking of the ureters, you are talking of the bladder. For men, you are talking about prostate. Well, let's leave it. I finish with the urinary system first. We are talking about the urethra, okay? And then you also take care of the male genital organs, okay, which now talks about the male reproductive organs. We don't deal with the female reproductive organ. The only deal we have with them is the urinary component of that. Our opposite physician will be the nephrologist who looks after the kidney, where the surgeons who operate on the kidney and urinary system, and the nephrologist is the physician that looks after them. For example, so my job will include taking care of kidney tumors, kidney stones, or any surgical thing in the kidney. Stones in the ureter, tumors in the ureter. The same applies to the bladder. And the bulk of work by a lot of urologists in this country has to do with repairing the urethra, which is in the penis, and also the prostate gland, surgeries of the prostate gland, either for cancer or for just prostate enlargement. So that, in a nutshell, a urologist just like also participates in kidney transplant, but kidney transplant is a different thing altogether. It's not restricted to urologists. Any general surgeon can specialize in kidney transplant, because what we do in that aspect is to remove, to get a kidney from one patient and put in the pelvis of the patient who is the recipient. Okay? All you need is to have that proper training. The physician, the nephrologist, looks after the patient before and after that surgery. I think that...
yes. Now, I'm surprised you are here in Abuja, we say Zone 3,
Yes.
and you mean like your hospital, the Chivaka Specialist Hospital and Urologist Limited.
Yes, sir.
You mean these things are done there?
We don't just, we do all that and much more. The reason we established the hostel in the first instance is that we thought that too many people were going abroad for...
Exactly, that's what this medical tourism.
Tourism, yes.
You see people going to India, Germany, America, Egypt, and all that.
So when I retired from the army in 2006, in 2007 we set up and we were targeting minimal access surgery. So instead of cutting a patient open to remove the prostate, we passed an instrument through the patient's urethra, and watching on camera, the patient himself can watch, and we used to take out the prostate in chips, and the patient will go home the following day. Minimal bleeding, unlike the open surgeries.
So no surgery involved?
Well, there's surgery, but we call it minimal access surgery.
Okay.
We don't cut the abdomen with a knife. But so the idea, sir, was to ensure, was to encourage people not to have to travel to do this. And because, first of all, before then in Abuja, most of the people who did surgeries in Abuja were coming from outside to do it. But I'm happy to say today there are so many of us doing it in Abuja here. Okay? We've even gone beyond that, for example, for the prostate. We don't just do the one with electric current, and we now do laser surgery for the prostate. You know, some people are also doing for the kidneys, we do, and even for the prostate cancer, we do laparoscopic surgeries. In Lagos, there's a robot now. So I'm happy because I can see that we are beginning to have reverse tourism. Most people don't have to go out anymore to do these things because most of them were able to do right here in Abuja. And not just us, there are a number of other people who were able to do it here. That was the aim of setting the hospital. We didn't stop at that. Nigeria Association of Urological Surgeons, we have an annual conference. We did one in 2011 in Abuja, where we used the State House. We had resource people from South Africa who came for that conference. And after that, the company from Germany, Karl Storz, who were helping us to do these things, decided that they wanted to improve their market, of course. My own interest was that we'll get more people exposed to endourology, which is what we call this thing. So we started what we called the Urology Roadshow, where we were every 3 months, we went to one of the 6 geopolitical zones. What was the idea? When we hold a conference in Kano, for example, most of the people who will attend will be those from that area. But we wanted the exposure to endourology all over Nigeria. So myself and Professor Sani Alasan were the main resort. Kano, he's in Kano. So we're traveling all over the place with Professor Ramil from Jos. And by the time we did this, I'm happy to say that today, all over Nigeria, we're not saying that people get trained by just a workshop. No, you stimulate interest. A lot of people went to every place to get training. And today, people are getting training in Nigeria here, which is wonderful. In fact, in our hostel, we have some resident doctors from the teaching hostel who spent 2 months with us to get exposure. We need to go beyond paying lip service to the giant as being giant of Africa. There's a lot we can do in this country. What people need is the enabling environment to be able to get a lot of things we're not doing, not because people have not been trained, but because the equipment is not available. And that means funding. Sir, in most countries, development in medicine is driven by private sector. But how do I, as a private person, borrow money at 30% to buy an equipment that is $1 million, for example? Who can get that equipment? So we need to create the enabling environment to ensure, because, you see, if a list I have breaks down, I'm going to get a repair within the week, otherwise I won't function.
And there could be patients waiting.
If a laser spoils in the government hospital, they have to wait for the budget, next budget. Because the money involved, if you have to use 22,000 euros to repair equipment, where are you going to get that in a government hospital? You must wait for the next budget cycle. Am I saying they shouldn't fund government? No, you must fund them. But you must also realize that the system we have put in place makes them slow. Not because the people are incapable, but because we have not created an enabling environment to make people work properly.
Now,
okay.
In your explanations, you fell short of saying, in Lagos, there's this almost like sounding like you wanted to say artificial intelligence or something.
We see one of the things we have not had in Nigeria since is robotics.
Yes.
Somebody has brought in one. And very soon there will be 1 or 2 more because the jinx has been broken. What was the problem for a lot of people? They were afraid of power. We will get enough power to sustain this thing, or because the cost of running generators is really very high. Very, very high. And of course, all that cost is transferred to the consumer. Because a public power supply is not steady enough for us to trust such expensive equipment to it. I don't run my lasers on NEPA. I have to put the generator on each time.
One is wondering why government shouldn't come into things of this nature to assist.
I think that we also should not make a mistake. I belong to the Guild of Medical Directors. We don't ask anybody to touch us anything. What we are saying in that line, regarding to what you're talking about, CBN provided a fund for farmers. Okay? You cannot sit here and say if you're not healthy. We must have a fund for healthcare that will not be more than a single digit, and will run for a minimum of 5 years, because most of those equipment you buy have that 5 years for you to finish paying. That way, you will be able to bring in those equipment and be able to make sure that you don't overprice them. If I have to get a loan at 30%, it will affect my pricing. But that is not all. It will still not be available to the ordinary Nigerian. It will be those who can afford to go abroad who will still pay. And when they look and say, why am I paying this much in Nigeria? Let me just go abroad. So the man makes an investment and is not making much money out of it.
Okay. Now, let us go on a very short break and come back. When we come back, I still remember your friend, who I think he retired as a brigadier general, Ovaje Oviemo, the inventor of ITSET.
ITSET, yes.
And at the point, he was in ECOWAS, he was in African Organization of African Unity, as it was called then. At the point they recognized him, but it looked like the Nigerian authorities, I don't know. Maybe you can be
I'm not really able to comment on that.
Well, we'll come to that.
I'm sure General Obaje is in a better position to make those comments.
We'll get to know something a little bit about that after you have sipped, just a sip of water. We'll come to that. The program is The Veteran, and we have a colonel, retired, a doctor, still in service. I'm talking of Everistus and Azodo, and of course, an evangelist, combining all sorts of things, the power, the medical, the spirituality, all in one. We want to thank you for coming. My name is Ben Sheman. Let's take this break.
This collation center is a fabrication of our own ideas that collation center becomes superior to result coming from a polling unit. We must have an election that represents the true wishes and aspirations of our people through the ballot. And elections must stop at the polling unit. You can't have election at the polling unit. People have cast their vote. Elected members have been elected. It's uploaded to the new technology that we're using, the IRF and the beavers. And then you get to collation center, you see another result like it happened in Edo.
We must now go back to section 88 of the Constitution, which gives only the National Assembly, not EFCC, not ICPC, not the police, not the DSS or the National Security Advisor. They don't have such powers. Only the National Assembly has the power to carry out investigation of funds that have been allocated, that have been approved by the federal government through the budget, the appropriation act enacted by the National Assembly.
Pleasure being with you, our viewers. This is Third Eye Africa TV.
The program is Nigeria and Politics.
This is Third Eye Africa TV, exposing crime, savaging the nation.
But in our case, we are investing on politics. And possibly
is in Nigeria.
Okay. Welcome back. We are still with our guest, Dr. Everistus Azodo. Like I was saying, there used to be a colonel. He became a general. Oviemo Ovaje. He created this ITSET. A thing that it was said that it could. Maybe you give us a small light.
What he did, because one of the problems in not just in Nigeria but a lot of part of Africa is getting blood for surgeries. and you have women having cesarean section, and a lot of people die in the process of pregnancy. And so what he did is he created a machine that can save the cells. A patient is bleeding, recover the blood, process it, his machine process it, and give it back to the patient.
Wonderful.
So the idea was to, where you are not able to get blood for the patient, you can actually save the patient's blood and give back to the patient. That was what the machine was supposed to do, which was a wonderful invention.
I remember in the 90s, I was always interviewing him. And here in Abuja, he said, look, the army made me who I am. The Nigerian authorities made me who I am. But you see, many people are looking for this equipment. I want Nigeria to produce it. But they were not forthcoming. Anyway, I don't even know where he is today, whether those materials are being used today or some countries will come. So I salute him, and I believe that the Nigerian authorities should look for this officer. And also, I mean, we cannot just be pushing our own just this way.
I think that is there's so much for us to do. There are a lot of people who are doing wonderful work in Nigeria. And if we create the environment, give them a little push. You see, Nigerians are not lacking in ideas. They need enabling environment to make the ideas work. They need to produce these ideas. Okay, I think we need to do more than we are doing. Quite frankly, Nigerians are very good followers. In every aspect of our life, if those in leadership lead properly, Nigerians will follow. The same Nigerians that are in public sector are those who are in private sectors. How many times do private hostels go on strike? I'd like to talk about hostel because that's where you can't keep going on strike. How are you going to get money to be paid? So I think that I like to talk about healthcare. That's what I know. The day we introduce performance-based pay, not just in healthcare, but all over the place, strikes will stop. But the government and whoever is the authority in charge must also meet their own responsibilities. I give you an example of what I mean. Hospital A, you belong to government. Your wage bill for the month is, for the purpose of this discussion, 100 million. With what we've provided you, we expect you to be able to earn as profit for yourself at least 50 million every month. So every month, we'll give you 50 million for your wages. The rest of your wage, you will generate it from internally generated revenue. It will be the chief executive's business now to determine how many surgeries, how many consultations, how many this, how many that we're going to do to earn this money as profit. Because there's always a cost. When you are busy earning that money, you won't have time for strike. You won't have time to divert patients. But when you divert the patients, you're not going to get paid. And your colleagues will let you divert patients because it will affect his own income.
Now, one is wondering, with all these problems, you see young doctors, there's the concept, japa, you just run away, go to developed countries, they say you make more money. But people are like you, are staying and making it better. What's the attraction?
It's too late for me to go anywhere. But I want to tell you something. You see, we must be realistic. Patriotism does not come from an empty stomach. If you value people, they will give you their best. If you don't value them, they will go where they will be valued. We are talking about doctors. It's happening to engineers, nurses. The tech people are going every day. So what we should sit down and ask, what can we do to encourage people to stay? As usual, I'll go back to healthcare. The practice of the environment must be right. People must be given the tools to work with. The compensation must be adequate. We see people who have next to no education or minimal education, and they win an election, become billionaires. You are saving life every day. You can't afford to buy a car, or if someone has given you, if you're able to buy a second-hand or third-hand car, you can hardly fuel it. And you want them to stay? They won't stay. They are marketable. So we must diagnose the problem and deal with the problem and stop this thing we're saying they are not patriotic. It's not about patriotism. They have a responsibility to care for themselves. You're talking of children who are 25 years old. You want them to stay? They will stay. The crisis in healthcare, we have no idea what it is. For me as an employer in healthcare, it's very difficult for me to get nurses. It's very difficult for me to get doctors. And when you come to those who are in certain specialties, like radiography, you can hardly get people. It is not by saying you cannot travel, ban them from travel. How are you going to ban them? You reach agreement with countries that you don't want your people to go there. For goodness sake, you cannot discriminate against people like that. They will find where to go to. We must create an environment that enables our children to have hope in our country and want to stay in our country.
Now, some people have always been converging for the fact that why don't we have the structure, the hospitals, the equipment nice in this country, and also begin to invite the consultants abroad to come work with us. There's going to be that transfer of technology and knowledge and all that stuff. What's your take on this?
Well, but I think that is. Let me just tell you what I think. Let me leave the statement. I've told you we are not lacking in trained people. We are lacking in the technology. A lot of us have gone to train. I know a number of people who have trained in robotics now. For robots for surgery. If not for the one the private hospital have brought in, we had the robots to practice with. We have highly trained people in bone marrow transplants. How many facilities are there for them to practice? Go around the hospitals, the government hospitals. How many of them are the high-tech equipment they acquired being upgraded? How many of them are being maintained adequately? Because we have this long budgeting processes that has no respect for what equipment has broken. If I have...
They call it due process.
Yes. If I have a flexible ureteroscope that I use to operate and go into the kidney, and I'm the only one working with it, I'll be able to hold it down for a long time. But where we have 5 different surgeons using that same equipment, it's going to break down very soon. Do we have the ability to replace them immediately? So it's good to say bring people from abroad. By the way, how much will you be paying those who are coming from abroad? If you pay those who are here, they will do much better. Because they have a stake, their children are here. Their families are here. They have a stake here. It's good to invite people. After all, when we started our hostel, I had one of several visiting consultants from UK, Nigerians who were coming. We can do that. But that is not the focus. Create a good working environment in this place for our children. A lot of them will come back without you asking them.
Okay. Maybe we move to the next phase of this interview. We want to see how.
Don't forget security is a problem.
Right. Okay.
That is one of the reasons people leave. I run a hostel in Owerri. I run one in Abuja. Security is a challenge.
So how has this sit at home affected your operations?
Well,
Insecurity, kidnapping, banditry.
Well, it is a challenge because people are afraid. Even in places where you will go from month to month, nothing has happened. But fear is a factor. On Monday, most of your patients won't come to hospital. We've even received threats because you will open on Monday. But you cannot, because of a threat, not function. But I think that this insecurity thing is something the federal government must do something about. I don't think it's just a question of state police. People must be given the opportunity to provide security for their environments, working with the security forces. We have gotten to the stage where we have problems everywhere. The military is spread thin. The police even worse. But I think it's important that our police do policing instead of doing escorts to men of timber and caliber.
Mm. And some people have the opinion that the military should pull out, stay in your barracks, and the police should take care of internal security with the DSS.
I think it's important, it's easy to say those things. What's the population of police you have? I assure you, the military doesn't want to be on the checkpoint. Military being in the checkpoint, what it says is that the police is not able to cope. The military at the checkpoint are doing internal security operations. That's not their primary role.
Yeah, because probably like the days of Buhari, it was that every year 10,000 policemen, I'm not even talking of officers, should be recruited into the system. And for 8 years, the Inspector General of Police and the Chairman of Police Service Commission, they all were in court suing the other as to who has that right. And there was time lapse, Buhari was relaxing. Today, the soldiers are doing check-in or mounting checkpoint as opposed to the police doing that.
No. Police is mounting the primary checkpoints. In certain areas, you also have soldiers mounting checkpoints. But you see, checkpoint is not soldier's duty. If soldier is mounting checkpoint, it means the authorities in that place have told us that the police is not able to cope.
So how do we come out of this?
And then that's when we're having joint operation between police and soldiers and all that. I've never supported those kind of operations. I can do joint. It's important to know the way a soldier functions, the way a policeman functions. The police is supposed to interact with the civilian population. When you call out soldier against a group of people, you have declared those people enemies of state. And for the soldier, what he's supposed to do is what we call concept of minimal force. The minimal force he needs to exert to stop that situation, that's what he exerts. And if that minimal force is shooting, he will shoot.
And it does not matter the place he shoots.
Well, I think it's important we understand people's duties. We create problems and we blame soldiers. Soldiers have no business interacting with civilians. Because when you call out soldiers on civilians, you have declared those civilians enemy of state.
Okay, now let's go to the last portion, spirituality. From military, medical, now spiritual. In other words, if the gun shoots, medically, you treat. You combine that with the healing aspect. Tell us about your religious life.
Well, first of all, let me start by saying, people always see conflict. They always ask me about this conflict. Say, how can you be a soldier and then be a pastor at the same time? There's no conflict with that. All are saving lives. Soldier is protecting our territorial integrity. And so one thing I want you to leave here with is that our soldiers, I've never seen soldiers as disciplined as our soldiers anywhere in the world. People will say, which soldiers? What those soldiers tolerate, no other army will tolerate it. Our soldiers are trained to be obedient. Anyway, let me just leave our soldiers and move on. So there's no conflict. Doctor, you heal the body. Soldier, provide territorial integrity, protect the territorial integrity. And as a pastor, you're focused on pointing people to Jesus Christ and his saving message of grace. So your point was salvation. So it's very interesting because I guess just like as I was born a soldier, I was also born into the priesthood in one way or the other, because my father actually handed me over to God as a little child. I didn't become a Catholic priest. My father was a knight of the Catholic Church. So when the time was fully come, God called me into the pastoral, and I became a pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God in the year 2003. I was still in service when I became a pastor in the Redeemed Christian Church of God.
And this is blending seamlessly with the motto of the Nigerian Army. Victory comes only from God.
And it is important that, 1 Corinthians 4 verse 7 says that what do you have that you have not received? If you have received it, why do you glory as if you have not? Everything you have, everything you are, everything you will ever be is by the grace of God. I gave my life to Christ in the year 1990, was when I got born again. And I went into backsliding for 1 year. I rededicated my life to Christ on the 10th of April, 1992. He has shown me the way since then. And so the point is, what does it mean? First and foremost, you must recognize the Lordship of Christ. And Christianity means, well, Christian means that you are a follower of Christ. Unfortunately, a lot of modern day Christians are forgetting that Christ got our redemption from suffering. And they say, "Me, I no go suffer." Suffering is part and parcel of Christianity. Any doctrine that says there's no suffering in Christianity is straight out of the pit of hell. That deceives people. And all people think about is prosperity.
Yes. Now let's look at the role of religion and the military. Because at the point, some people, when General Tukur Buratai, when he was Chief of Army Staff, at the point, you could see him emphasizing, pray for our soldiers, pray. Someone said, no, carry the guns and fight. But some will say, look, even in your fighting, you must know God. So let's know this.
Victory belongs to God. And that's why the Nigerian Army has chaplaincy. You have Islam, you have the Protestants, and you have the Catholic. It's an institution in the military. The victory comes from God and from God alone. And it's important that people have that understanding that your relationship with people will draw from your relationship with God. If you are not able to understand that you have that vertical relationship with God, whatever your religion is, it also makes it difficult for you to have the horizontal relationship with your fellow man. But also, it's important for us to understand that you cannot love God and hate your fellow man.
Because man is made in God's image.
Exactly. In fact, 1 John 4 verse 19 and 20 tells you that you cannot, if you do not love man who you have seen, how can you love God who you have not seen? In the military, if you have this kind of thinking, then it won't be difficult for you to bond with your brother, irrespective of their religion. In a section you have of 10 men, you have people of different religions. But if you have the understanding that they're your brothers, then you're going to work better together. Because if you don't work better together, that section will continue to be under punishment. Because you are going to keep misbehaving and failing, and will keep punishing you.
Okay. One final one. It has to do with the medical and government. If you were to be government, when I say government, okay, the president of Nigeria, medically, how do we make Nigeria a healthy nation? Short, simple, sharp, straight to the point.
First of all, when you're talking about a healthy nation, you're not talking about medicine. You start with food. You start with security. You start with your environment. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Medicine comes when all these have failed. Your people must be able to feed themselves and feel secure and live in a secure environment. Then you can start talking of a healthy nation. Medicine, treatment comes when all these have failed. So, we need to have good primary health care. Specialist care is at the top of the rank. People are dying more from malaria than from cancer, because malaria affects more people than cancer does. And that's at the primary health care level. We must strengthen primary health care. We must strengthen, we lose too many of our mothers and children at childbirth. We must have good maternity services at that very low level before you start talking of coming to general hospitals and to the super specialty hospitals. The key is primary health care, sir.
At this point, we have to match the brakes and end this program. I wish we could continue, but you've been watching, you've been listening to a retired colonel. No, a colonel retired,
but not tired.
but not tired. A medical doctor, an evangelist. I'm talking of Dr. Everistus Azodo. I want to thank you for coming to this program. He's the consultant, CHIVAC specialist hospital and urologist hospital limited here in Abuja. We've spoken so much, and I want to thank you once again for coming.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ben Shaman. Keep watching. Follow us. We are Third Eye Africa. Thank you for watching.